Joining me now, Trump surrogate and New Jersey Governor Christie. Governor, great to see you.
Hey, good to see you, Megan.
Do you find it ironic that she sat there and said that in front of a sign that read "Stronger Together"? the unifier?
Yeah, her whole campaign has become very ironic. And this is the person who's supposed to be, according to Barack Obama, the single most qualified person ever to run for president of the United States. I'm sure that Thomas Jefferson and George Washington are really spinning in their grave at that one.
Well, Trump says he's the most qualified.
Well, and she has no plan. She has no plans, no substantive things that she's put forward. Now, she says she's going to bring the country together, yet she says that half of Donald Trump's supporters are deplorables and that they're all kinds of racist, xenophobic, all the rest of it. You heard all of it. The fact is that this is a campaign that is just trying to run out the clock. She's devoid of any ideas. And by the way, the worst part of that is she's an elitist. 25 years in Washington, D.C. from Hillary Clinton. She's a Washington, D.C. elitist who now believes anybody else is beneath her.
You know, her people say she's not the elitist. She wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth like he was. She wasn't raised in these New York City circles. She doesn't have a picture of herself at Mar-a-Lago in her white tennis outfit. You know, they're trying to say he's the elitist. She actually pulled herself up from nothing.
Well, what she did was she and her husband set up a foundation that made them wealthy after they left office. And that's what she did. So now, if you want to call that,
she spent her entire life in government service, except for her law firm years.
But Megan, if you listen to her, she was flat broke when she left the White House.
Right.
Okay, so all the pulling up by the bootstraps before then, I'm not to any way demeaning how hard she may have worked, but she said she was flat broke when she left the White House. Now all of a sudden they are multi-millionaires from foreign countries, from big corporations.
They paid Bill Clinton for speeches right after they did a solid for the company.
Yeah, and as Secretary of State, you wrote a check to the foundation. You got to go into the Secretary of State's office and have a meeting. I mean, if you call that pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, I call it ripping off the American people.
Well, I'm talking about the difference between how they were raised and what kind of families they came from. But I want to ask you this, because she's talking about he's talking about her now running a hate-filled and negative campaign. That was Trump saying she's running a hate-filled campaign. That's been her allegation about him all along. And even though this is obviously a huge political blunder by her, do you think she has any sort of a point in raising that with him? Because, as you know, he has made some points that have been very controversial, like the Mexican judge can't decide my case because he's, quote, Mexican, but he's not Mexican, he's from Indiana.
Well, listen, I think that Donald has said and gave a speech in North Carolina that I think was a meaningful moment in this campaign when he said that if he said things during the campaign that have hurt people, that he has real regret for that.
Well, he didn't name anything, Governor. He didn't take responsibility for a single remark.
Sure, he took responsibility for the fact that if he said things that hurt people, he regrets it. Have you heard Hillary Clinton say that? Megan, but seriously now.
What kind of taking responsibility is that? If somebody on your staff came to you and said, you know, I'm sure I've done some wrong things over the past, like, 8 years, and I take responsibility. That's meaningless.
Well, that's not 10 or 8 years. Here's the thing. Hold the two of them to the same standard. Hillary Clinton does not express regret over the things that she's done and said about Donald Trump and what she calls
She says she regrets his comments. She's sorry as a political matter.
She regrets it because it's now been stuck in her ear on national television, not only by paid media, but by free media who thinks it's ridiculous.
She said it repeatedly. Nobody called it to her attention the first time. That's a really stupid and offensive thing to say.
Yeah, well, you know why? Two reasons. One, she doesn't have people around her who speak the truth to her. That's pretty obvious. And secondly, the other problem is she believes it. That's what she believes. You know, sometimes people say things over and over again that are wrong where we sit back and say, how could they possibly say that? Here's how. They believe it. All
right, I got to ask you one other thing.
Sure.
So I haven't seen you since you became a Trump surrogate, and you took a lot of heat from people for that. And I just went back and looked at Jennifer Rubin, conservative columnist for the Washington Post, wrote that you'd been ruined by it. You'd gone from someone admired for your political talent to the object of derision as an errand boy.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, well, seriously, I don't really care what someone like Jennifer Rubin says if I'm an object of derision to her, because what I'm trying to do is to make sure that the nominee for President of the United States of my party is the best possible nominee he can be and make sure that Hillary Clinton doesn't get into the White House. I think I'm doing the right thing.
Governor, great to see you.
Thanks, Megan. Great to be with you.